"Put your hands on the car," the officer ordered. Nia Bennett stopped beside the curb outside Westbridge Academy, still wearing the Navy hospital coat from her 12-hour shift, and looked through the iron gates toward the main building. Her daughter stood behind a glass door less than 40 feet away, one hand pressed against the pane, her face pale with fear. Maya's lips moved without sound. 2 words. "They know." Nia felt the world narrow to the distance between them. Officer Daniel Mercer stepped closer, blocking her view, while Officer Evan Doyle raised a phone and began recording from the sidewalk. A third officer, Luke Harris, stood near the patrol car with his body camera glowing red. Nia kept both hands visible. "My daughter asked me to come," she said. Mercer glanced at her older sedan, her hospital identification badge, and the service lane behind her as though each detail confirmed something he had already decided. "We received a report about an agitated woman approaching students. I just arrived. That is not what we were told. If you believe every child deserves to be heard and every parent deserves the truth, subscribe and stay with this story, because what Nia was about to discover had begun long before she reached the school gate." The afternoon air smelled of wet leaves, exhaust, and the antiseptic still clinging to her sleeves. Rain clouds pressed low over the red brick buildings. Parents gathered near the pickup lane, some watching openly, others pretending not to. Nia could feel their attention settle on her before anyone asked who she was. "Call the front office," she said. "Ask for Maya Bennett. I am her mother." Doyle looked down at the phone in Nia's hand. The screen was still lit with Maya's last message. "Mom, do not trust the principal." His expression changed. "Give me the phone." Nia drew it closer to her chest. "Am I under arrest?" "You are being detained while we determine why you are here." "I already told you why I am here." Mercer held out his hand. "The phone." Nia looked past him again. Maya had disappeared from the glass door. A cold pressure formed beneath Nia's ribs. At 7:15 that morning, Maya had left home in a pressed uniform, complaining only that she had forgotten a history worksheet. At 1:12 in the afternoon, the first message arrived while Nia was helping stabilize a patient in the emergency room. "Can you pick me up?" At 1:19 came the second. "Please come alone." At 1:26 came the final warning. "Do not trust the principal." Nia called 3 times. No answer. By the time her shift ended, Maya's phone was off. Now 3 officers were waiting before she had even reached the entrance. That could not be coincidence. "Officer Harris," Nia said, keeping her voice calm, "please confirm when this call was made." Luke glanced toward Mercer. "Ma'am, we need you to cooperate." "I am cooperating. I am also asking whether the report came before or after my daughter contacted me." Mercer stepped between them. "You do not question my officers. Then answer the question yourself." Doyle gave a short laugh and moved closer with his phone. "She has an attitude already." Nia looked directly into his camera. "The time is 4:43 in the afternoon. I arrived less than 3 minutes ago. I have not threatened anyone, touched anyone, or crossed the school gate." Doyle lowered the phone slightly. Mercer's jaw tightened. Behind the fence, a group of students stood beneath the covered walkway. Nia heard one girl whisper, "That is Maya's mom." Another answered, "They said she would get arrested if she came." The sentence cut through every other sound. Nia turned toward the voices. A blonde girl in a Westbridge uniform stared back at her, frightened by what she had revealed. "Who told you that?" Nia asked. The girl's eyes shifted toward the school entrance. Before she could answer, Principal Margaret Whitmore appeared behind the locked glass doors. She did not come outside. She did not wave. She simply looked at Mercer and gave one small nod. Nia understood then that the officers had not arrived because someone feared what she might do. They had arrived because someone inside the school feared what she might learn. Nia kept her eyes on Principal Whitmore through the locked glass doors. The principal's small nod to Mercer had lasted less than a second, but it carried the confidence of an arrangement already understood. Mercer shifted closer to Nia, filling the space between her and the school. "Place your phone on the hood of the car," he said. Nia did not move immediately. "My daughter sent me a message asking for help." I need to know where she is. Your daughter is safe. Then let me see her. Doyle raised his phone again, recording only Nia's face and the hand holding her device. She is refusing another instruction, he said. Nia looked directly at his lens. I am asking to contact my 12-year-old daughter after receiving 3 urgent messages. Luke's gaze moved toward the locked entrance. He seemed to notice what Nia had noticed. The students inside were being kept away from the doors, and the principal had still not stepped outside to identify the parent standing before her. Nia slowly placed the phone on the hood, screen facing upward. Maya's final warning remained visible. Do not trust the principal. Mercer reached for it, but Nia placed 2 fingers beside the phone without touching him. You may not search it without my consent. We are securing it during an investigation. What investigation? Mercer's expression hardened. There was a disturbance involving your daughter. The words struck harder than the accusation against Nia. What happened to her? That is being handled by the school. A minute ago, you said the call was about me approaching students. Mercer said nothing. The story had shifted, and everyone near enough to hear it knew. 12 hours earlier, Nia had begun her hospital shift before sunrise. She had spent the morning moving between crowded rooms, checking vital signs, calming frightened families, and explaining delays to people whose patience had been worn thin by fear. She was accustomed to emergencies arriving without warning. What unsettled her now was the careful way this emergency had been arranged. Maya's messages had grown more urgent, yet no teacher, counselor, or administrator had called. The school had not asked Nia to come. Someone had waited until she was already driving there, then placed officers at the gate. Officer Harris, she said, please ask dispatch who made the call. Luke's eyes moved to Mercer. The caller was school administration, he answered after a pause. Mercer turned sharply. That information is not relevant. It is relevant if the school called before she arrived, Luke said. Doyle lowered his phone slightly. Nia felt the cold air settle beneath the collar of her hospital coat. What time was the call made? Luke checked the screen inside the patrol car. 4:28. Nia had entered the service lane at 4:40. The officers had been waiting 12 minutes before she appeared. What did they say I had done? Luke read silently, then looked at Nia with growing discomfort. The caller reported that an angry parent was expected to arrive and might attempt to force entry. Nia looked toward Whitmore. The principal remained behind the glass, one hand resting near the intercom panel. Expected, Nia repeated. They described me as dangerous before I arrived. Mercer stepped in front of Luke. The school had reason to be concerned. What reason? Your daughter made accusations against other students and became disruptive when staff questioned her. Nia's chest tightened, but her voice remained steady. My daughter asked for me. That is not disruption. Behind the covered walkway, the blonde student from before took a cautious step forward. Another girl reached for her sleeve, trying to pull her back. Olivia, Principal Whitmore called through the intercom, her voice suddenly sharp. The blonde girl froze. Nia recognized the name from Maya's class list. Olivia Whitmore. The principal's daughter. Go inside, Whitmore ordered. Olivia looked at her mother, then at Nia. Her face carried the exhausted fear of someone who had been holding a secret too long. Maya did not cause it, she said. The words were barely louder than the rain beginning to tap against the metal awning. Whitmore pressed the intercom button again. Olivia, now. Olivia did not move. They took her phone because she recorded what happened, she continued. Mercer looked toward the principal. Doyle stopped recording for 1 second, then quickly raised the phone again. Nia felt every sound around her fade except Olivia's voice. What did she record? Nia asked. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. Before she could answer, the glass door opened just wide enough for a staff member to pull her inside. The lock clicked again. Nia stared at the empty space where the girl had stood. Maya had not only asked for help. She had tried to preserve something the school wanted hidden, and the people outside the gate had been called to keep her mother away from it. Nia watched the locked glass doors while rain gathered along the edge of the school awning. Olivia had been pulled inside, but her words remained outside with everyone who had heard them. Maya recorded what happened. The sentence changed the meaning of every officer, every camera, and every delay at the gate. Mercer stepped toward the patrol car and spoke into his radio in a voice too low for the nearby parents to understand. Doyle moved beside him, holding his phone against his chest now that the situation no longer fit the version he had expected to capture. Luke remained near the open driver's door, reading the dispatch notes again. The call says the parent may attempt to force entry, he said. It does not say anyone saw her threaten the school. Mercer turned toward him. The administration requested assistance. That is enough. It is enough to respond, Luke replied. It is not enough to invent what happened after we arrived. Nia noticed Mercer's face tighten. The younger officer had not openly challenged him before. Officer Harris, she said, ask whether the caller mentioned a student recording. Mercer raised one hand. You are done directing this scene. Then direct it toward the truth. Doyle gave a short laugh, but it lacked confidence. You really think this is some kind of conspiracy? Nia looked through the gate at the empty walkway where Olivia had stood. I think my daughter asked me to come alone, warned me about the principal, and had her phone taken after recording something. I think your department received a call describing me as dangerous before I arrived. Those are facts. A gray luxury sedan rolled slowly through the faculty lane. The driver glanced toward Nia, then quickly looked away. Behind it, the brick buildings of Westbridge Academy appeared polished and quiet, their white columns and trimmed hedges untouched by the tension at the curb. The school had built its reputation on college admissions, donor families, and annual photographs of smiling students in matching uniforms. Problems were handled behind closed doors. Complaints became misunderstandings. Isolation became conflict between children. Anything that threatened the name of Westbridge was softened until no one could identify who had been harmed. Principal Whitmore had protected that system for 14 years. She knew which parents funded the science wing, which board members controlled scholarships, and which stories could damage enrollment before the spring fundraiser. Maya Bennett had arrived on financial aid 7 months earlier. She was quiet, observant, and unwilling to laugh when classmates humiliated someone weaker. That made her difficult to control. 3 weeks earlier, school counselor Rachel Alvarez had reported that Maya was being excluded, mocked, and followed between classes. Whitmore called it an adjustment problem. A second report described students surrounding Maya near the locker room and taking her backpack. Whitmore said there were conflicting accounts. A third report had been scheduled for review that morning. It never reached the board. Nia knew none of this yet, but Luke was beginning to see pieces of it on the patrol computer. There were 2 prior calls from the school involving Maya Bennett, he said. Mercer stepped closer. Close that screen. Luke did not. Both were coded as student behavior issues. No parent notification listed. Nia felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. When? Last month and 8 days ago. No one called me. The rain strengthened, tapping against car roofs and darkening the shoulders of Nia's coat. Parents gathered under umbrellas, their phones appearing one by one. Mercer looked around and lowered his voice. This is becoming a public disturbance because you refuse to cooperate. I have not moved from where you told me to stand. Your presence is escalating the crowd. Nia stared at him. She had spent 12 hours in an emergency room where frightened people shouted, cried, and demanded answers. No doctor had ever blamed a patient for the people watching. My presence is not the problem, she said. What happened inside that school is. The main doors opened. Principal Whitmore finally stepped outside beneath a wide black umbrella, followed by a staff member and Rachel Alvarez. The counselor's face was tense, and she carried a blue folder pressed tightly against her chest. Whitmore stopped several feet behind Mercer. Ms. Bennett, she said, your daughter has made serious accusations against other students. Where is she? She is being supervised. Let her come to me. Whitmore's smile was controlled and empty. That would not be appropriate until we establish what occurred. Rachel shifted beside her. The blue folder moved slightly, revealing Maya's name on the tab. Whitmore noticed and placed one hand over it. Nia saw the gesture. Luke saw it too. What is in that folder? Nia asked. Rachel opened her mouth, but Whitmore answered first. Internal student records. Records about my daughter belong in this conversation. Not on a sidewalk. Then open the gate. For 1 second, no one spoke. Whitmore looked at Mercer. Mercer looked at the growing line of phones. Then Rachel stepped away from the principal's hand. There are 3 reports, she said. Whitmore's face lost its practiced calm. Rachel, stop. The counselor held the folder tighter. Maya reported the same students 3 times, and every report was delayed. Nia felt the rain run beneath her collar. Why? Rachel looked toward the school windows. Because one of the students is Olivia, and the others are children of board members. Behind the glass, a small figure appeared at the end of the hallway. Maya. Her uniform was wrinkled, her backpack clutched against her chest. She looked at her mother, then at Rachel's folder. Whitmore followed Nia's gaze and spoke quietly to Mercer. Keep her outside. Luke heard it. His body camera heard it. Nia heard it too. The school was no longer pretending the officers were there to protect anyone. They were there to protect a door. Nia kept her eyes on Maya behind the glass while Principal Whitmore's order remained suspended in the rain. Keep her outside. Mercer shifted his stance toward the gate as though those 3 words had settled the question. Luke did not move. His body camera continued recording, its red light steady against the gray afternoon. Principal Whitmore, Nia said, did you call the police before I arrived? Whitmore tightened her grip on the umbrella. We contacted law enforcement because we anticipated an emotional confrontation. You anticipated my emotions before speaking to me. Your daughter made allegations involving several families. We had reason to expect tension. Nia looked toward Rachel Alvarez. Did you tell the principal I was dangerous? Rachel shook her head immediately. No, Whitmore turned toward her. That is not what I said. You told dispatch an angry parent might force entry, Luke said. Mercer gave him a warning look. Officer Harris, remain focused on crowd control. There is no crowd disorder, Luke replied. Parents stood beneath umbrellas, silent now, their phones lowered but still recording. The only raised voice belonged to the principal. Doyle glanced around and adjusted his own phone so it no longer showed the dispatch screen inside the patrol car. Nia noticed. Keep every camera running, she said. Mercer looked at her with open irritation. You are not giving instructions here. Then consider it a request from a mother whose child is being held behind a locked door. Whitmore's expression sharpened. Maya is not being held. She is being supervised for her own well-being. Behind the glass, Maya lifted one hand and pressed it against the door. Nia saw a torn seam near the shoulder of her uniform and a dark mark where the strap of her backpack had rubbed against her wrist. Her first instinct was to cross the distance between them. Instead, she remained exactly where Mercer had ordered her to stand. She would not give him movement he could rename as aggression. Maya, Nia called, keeping her voice gentle, stay where the cameras can see you. Whitmore turned toward the doors. Move her away from there. Rachel stepped between the staff member and the entrance. No, the single word changed. The air. Whitmore stared at her counselor. You are an employee of this school. I am also a mandated reporter. Rachel opened the blue folder. Maya told me that students followed her into the locker room, took her phone, and tried to delete a recording. She said an adult staff member saw the students leave and did not intervene. Nia felt the cold rain running down the back of her neck, but her voice stayed steady. Where is the recording now? Rachel looked toward Maya. She uploaded it to the school counseling portal before they took her phone. Whitmore stepped closer. That material is part of an internal review. You tried to delay the review, Rachel said. And you ordered the technology office to remove the file from the student server. Mercer looked at Whitmore for the first time with uncertainty. Is that true? Whitmore's face remained composed, but her hand tightened around the umbrella handle. The video contains minors. It required controlled access. Luke moved to the patrol computer. Was any deletion requested after the police call? Whitmore did not answer. Doyle leaned toward Mercer. This is a school matter. We should clear the sidewalk. Nia looked directly at him. You were called to stop me from reaching the school before evidence disappeared. That is not what happened, Mercer said, though less firmly than before. Then open the gate and let the counselor bring my daughter outside. Whitmore's practiced smile returned. Ms. Bennett, Maya is upset and may not be giving a reliable account. The words landed with a quiet cruelty Nia recognized from hospital rooms, where frightened patients were sometimes dismissed because their voices shook. A child does not become unreliable because the truth makes adults uncomfortable, she said. Behind the glass, Maya nodded. Then Olivia appeared beside her, pulling free from the staff member who had taken her away. She reached the intercom before anyone could stop her. Her voice broke across the courtyard. My mother told the officers to keep you outside until the video was gone. Every phone turned toward the school doors. Whitmore froze. Olivia looked through the glass at Nia, tears running down her face. She said nobody would believe Maya if her mother looked angry on camera. The rain, the radios, and the murmuring parents seemed to disappear. Nia stared at the principal, stunned not by the existence of the plan, but by how deliberately her race, her fear, and her love for her daughter had been chosen as tools. Mercer slowly looked down at his dark body camera. Luke looked at his active one. Then Nia placed her palm against the iron gate, directly across from Maya's hand on the glass. Do not move, she told her daughter. They cannot erase what everyone has heard. For several seconds, no one moved. Olivia's confession hung over the courtyard with the weight of something too clear to deny. Parents stood beneath umbrellas, their phones pointed toward the gate. Rachel held the blue folder against her chest. Maya remained behind the glass with one hand pressed to the door, while Nia's palm rested against the cold iron bars several yards away. Mercer looked at Principal Whitmore, then at the dark body camera on his own uniform. You told Dispatch she might force entry, he said. Whitmore's face tightened. I told you there could be an emotional situation. You said she was dangerous, Olivia called through the intercom. Her voice trembled, but she did not step away. You said if the police made her angry, people would stop asking about Maya. Whitmore pressed the intercom control, cutting off her daughter's microphone. The silence that followed made the action louder than any denial. Doyle lowered his private phone and moved closer to Mercer. We should clear the area before this gets worse. Nia turned toward him. Worse for whom? Doyle did not answer. Luke stepped away from the patrol car and looked through the gate at Maya. Principal Whitmore, unlock the door and release the student to her parent. Mercer raised one hand. Officer Harris, stand down. Luke faced him. On what legal basis are we keeping a child from her mother? Mercer's jaw tightened. We are maintaining control. Control is not a legal basis. The red light on Luke's body camera continued to glow. Whitmore glanced toward it, then toward the parents recording from the sidewalk. Her certainty was beginning to collapse under the number of witnesses. Nia could feel her own anger rising, sharp and hot beneath the exhaustion of her hospital shift. She wanted to demand the gate be opened. She wanted to call out every lie. Instead, she took one slow breath and kept her hands visible. She knew exactly what Whitmore had hoped to capture. A black mother shouting, pulling at the gate, appearing threatening on a short video stripped of context. Nia would not complete the picture for her. Rachel, she said, does the counseling portal preserve uploaded files? The counselor nodded. Yes. It creates an automatic backup. Whitmore turned toward her. You are not authorized to discuss school systems publicly. I am authorized to protect a student, Rachel replied. She opened the folder and removed a printed page. The upload time was 2:17 this afternoon. The deletion request was submitted at 3:58. The police call was placed at 4:28. Luke repeated the times quietly, ensuring his camera captured them. Nia looked at Whitmore. You tried to remove the video, then called officers before I arrived. That is not what happened, Whitmore said. Then explain the timeline. Whitmore's mouth opened, but no words came. Behind the glass, Maya lowered her hand and leaned closer to the door. Mom, she called, her voice muffled. Nia stepped toward the gate, and Mercer immediately moved in front of her. Stay back. She stopped. My daughter is asking for me. You are still being detained. Luke looked at him. For what? Mercer's eyes moved toward the growing crowd. Interfering with an active investigation. She has stood in the same place for nearly 20 minutes, Luke said. Doyle spoke under his breath. Do not do this here. Luke did not look away. It is already happening here. Rachel reached inside her coat and pulled out a small flash drive. I copied the counseling portal backup before the technology office could remove it. Whitmore went pale. Mercer stared at the drive, finally understanding that the school had not called him to prevent danger. It had called him to create delay. Nia watched that realization move across his face, but it brought her no relief. He had accepted the story because it matched an assumption he was willing to believe. You saw my skin, my hospital coat, and my old car, she said quietly. You decided the warning made sense before I spoke. Mercer did not deny it. Rainwater ran from the edge of his cap and fell onto the pavement between them. Luke stepped toward the barrier and unclipped the temporary chain securing the pedestrian gate. Mercer's voice hardened. Do not open that gate. Luke held the chain in one hand. A child has asked for her parent. Evidence may have been concealed. There is no lawful reason to keep them separated. For one long moment, the two officers faced each other. Then Luke lifted the chain away. The gate opened 6 inches with a low metallic sound. Nia did not rush through. She looked at Mercer, giving him one final chance to choose what happened next. He stepped aside. Across the courtyard, the glass doors unlocked. Maya pushed them open and ran toward the gate, her backpack held tightly against her chest. Nia crossed the distance to meet her, and when Maya reached her arms, the entire school seemed to fall silent. Maya reached Nia with enough force to make the wet fabric of their coats press together, but Nia did not ask questions immediately. She wrapped both arms around her daughter and felt the child's breathing come fast against her shoulder. The courtyard remained silent around them. Rain tapped against umbrellas, patrol cars, and the metal gate that had kept them apart. Nia lowered one hand to the back of Maya's head. You are safe with me, she whispered. Maya tightened her grip. I tried to tell them. I know. They said I was causing trouble. I believe you. The words changed Maya's breathing before they changed anything else. Her shoulders dropped slightly. The backpack slipped from one hand and rested against the wet pavement. Behind them, Rachel Alvarez held the flash drive inside her closed palm while Luke Harris continued recording. Mercer stood near the patrol car, no longer blocking the gate, but still wearing the expression of a man trying to understand how quickly authority could become. Evidence against him. Doyle kept his phone lowered. Principal Whitmore remained beneath the school awning, separated from her daughter by several feet and something far greater than distance. Olivia watched her mother with disbelief. Nia finally leaned back enough to see Maya's face. Are you hurt? No. I am scared. That matters too. Maya looked toward the school doors. They followed me after lunch. They took my backpack and said I did not belong here. I started recording because Ms. Alvarez told me to save proof if it happened again. When they saw the phone, they tried to erase it. Her voice trembled, but she continued. A teacher was outside the locker room. She heard me asking for help. She walked away. Nia felt anger rise through her chest, but she kept her voice soft for Maya. You did the right thing. Principal Whitmore said the video would ruin people's futures. Maya glanced toward Olivia. She said I should think about what accusations do to good families. Rachel stepped closer. Maya uploaded the recording before anyone took her phone. The backup is secure. Luke looked at the flash drive. I need to document the chain of custody and contact the youth services investigator. Mercer moved toward him. We should review this through the school first. Luke faced him. The school tried to delete it. You do not know that. Rachel held up the printed timeline. I do. Several parents murmured under their umbrellas. One woman lowered her phone and looked toward Whitmore with open disgust. Another parent guided 2 students away from the entrance. The polished image of Westbridge was beginning to fracture, not because anyone shouted, but because facts were being spoken where everyone could hear them. Whitmore stepped forward. "Ms. Bennett, I understand you are upset, but we need to handle this carefully for all the children involved." Nia turned while keeping one arm around Maya. "Carefully would have meant calling me when my daughter first reported what happened. There were conflicting accounts. Carefully would have meant preserving evidence." Whitmore's lips tightened. "You do not understand the legal and privacy issues." "I understand that. You called the police before I arrived and described me as dangerous." Whitmore glanced toward Mercer. "That was a precaution." Nia looked at the phones, the body camera, and her daughter's wet face. "No. It was a strategy." Olivia began to cry quietly. "Mom, tell them why you did it." Whitmore did not look at her. That silence answered more than any explanation could. Luke contacted dispatch and requested a supervisor, a youth services investigator, and an evidence technician. He then turned toward Nia. "You are no longer being detained." Nia met his eyes. "I should never have been detained." "You are right." Mercer looked away. Luke continued, "I am sorry I did not challenge the call sooner." Nia glanced at his active body camera. "Keep recording. An apology means more when the truth stays attached to it." Rachel placed the flash drive inside an evidence envelope provided from Luke's patrol car. Maya watched every movement, as though she needed to see that her voice would not disappear again. Nia knelt beside her despite the rain soaking through her hospital coat. "Listen to me," she said. "What happened is not your fault. Asking for help was not causing trouble. Recording the truth was not causing trouble. The adults who ignored you made choices, and they will answer for them." Maya nodded, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. Around them, the gate remained open. The glass doors remained unlocked. For the first time that afternoon, no uniform, title, or school policy stood between a child and the person she trusted most. The first supervisor arrived 7 minutes later, followed by a youth services investigator and a district evidence technician carrying sealed bags and a small camera. The rain had softened to a mist, but no one left. Parents remained near the curb, students watched from behind the glass, and every person understood that the afternoon had moved beyond a misunderstanding. Lieutenant Sarah Collins stepped from the patrol vehicle, listened briefly to Luke, then looked at Mercer. "Why was the mother detained?" Mercer answered with the careful tone of someone rebuilding a report while speaking. "The school warned us that she might become aggressive." Collins looked toward Nia, who stood with one arm around Maya. "Did she?" Mercer hesitated. "She questioned our instructions." "That was not my question." Luke handed Collins the dispatch log. The call was placed 12 minutes before Ms. Bennett arrived. No threat had occurred. The school described a future reaction as though it were already evidence. Doyle shifted his weight and glanced toward the parents still recording. Collins then asked for every body camera file. Luke touched the red light on his chest. "Mine is complete." Mercer looked down at his dark camera. "Mine did not activate." "Did not activate," Collins repeated, "or was not activated?" Mercer did not answer. The evidence technician accepted Rachel's flash drive, photographed the printed upload history, and sealed both inside a numbered envelope. Rachel signed the transfer form with a hand that trembled only once. "The original recording may still exist in the counseling backup," she said. "The technology office received an order to delete it, but the system keeps an off-site copy for 30 days. Collins turned toward Principal Whitmore. "Who issued that order?" Whitmore stood beneath the awning with her arms folded tightly. "There was no deletion order. There was a request to restrict access because minors appeared in the video." Rachel opened the blue folder and removed a printed email. "This says remove the file from all student-accessible systems before the parent arrives." Olivia looked at her mother. "You wrote that?" Whitmore's expression changed, not into guilt, but calculation. "Olivia, you do not understand administrative language." "I understand what you told me," Olivia said. "You said Maya would lose her scholarship if she kept accusing people." Maya's fingers tightened around Nia's hand. Nia felt the movement and looked down at her daughter. "Did she say that to you too?" Maya nodded. She said families who create conflict are not a good fit for Westbridge. The sentence was quiet, but it reached every adult near the gate. Collins looked toward Whitmore. You will not speak with either child again until a guardian and investigator are present. Whitmore straightened. This is my school. Not this investigation. The youth services investigator, Karen Ellis, knelt several feet from Maya and introduced herself. She did not ask for the story immediately. She asked whether Maya wanted water, a dry room, or her mother beside her. Maya chose her mother. That small choice seemed to restore something the school had spent all afternoon taking away. Nia and Maya followed Ellis into a conference room near the front office, leaving the door open and the glass walls uncovered. Luke remained outside with Collins while the evidence technician accessed the patrol car audio. Minutes later, the recording played through a portable speaker. Whitmore's voice came first, clear and controlled. Keep the mother outside until I tell you the situation is under control. She may become emotional, so document any aggressive behavior. Mercer's voice followed. What does she look like? Whitmore answered, black woman, late 30s, hospital jacket, older gray sedan. No reported action. No threat. Only a description and an expectation. Mercer stared at the ground as the final words played. Collins shut off the speaker. You were not given probable cause, she said. You were given a stereotype, and you treated it like an order. Doyle opened his mouth, but Luke spoke first. Sergeant Mercer also told me not to disclose the dispatch timing and ordered me to focus on crowd control when there was no disturbance. Mercer turned toward him. You are destroying your career over one confused scene. Luke met his eyes. No. I am refusing to let your version become the only one. Inside the conference room, Maya looked through the glass at Luke, then at the sealed evidence envelope. Will they believe it now? She asked. Nia placed both hands around her daughters. They should have believed you before the video, she said. But now they will not be able to pretend they never heard you. Outside, Collins placed Mercer and Doyle on administrative leave pending investigation. Whitmore was instructed to surrender her office keys and preserve all school records. The adults who had controlled every door that afternoon were suddenly standing still, while others documented their choices. Maya watched the process without smiling. She did not need to see anyone humiliated. She needed to see the truth remain intact. When the evidence technician sealed the final recording, the sound of the adhesive strip closing was small, almost ordinary. Yet to Maya, it sounded like the first promise that what happened to her would not disappear. By early evening, Westbridge Academy no longer looked like the polished institution Nia had entered through photographs, brochures, and carefully staged parent events. The front office lights remained on, but the hallways were nearly empty. Principal Whitmore sat inside a conference room with a district attorney, a school board representative, and Lieutenant Collins, while every electronic record connected to Maya's reports was being preserved. Mercer and Doyle had already surrendered their department equipment and left separately under administrative orders. Luke remained outside the conference room completing his statement, his uniform damp from the rain and his face carrying the quiet exhaustion of someone who had finally chosen truth after standing too long beside silence. Nia sat with Maya in the counseling office, wrapped in a dry school blanket that Rachel had found in a cabinet. Maya held a paper cup of hot chocolate between both hands, watching the steam rise without drinking. Are we going home? She asked. As soon as you are ready, Nia said. Do I have to come back tomorrow? Nia looked at the school courtyard beyond the window. The gate was open now, but an open gate did not automatically make a place safe. No one will decide that for you tonight. Maya lowered her eyes. If I leave, they will say I could not handle it. Leaving an unsafe place is not failure. But Olivia told the truth. She did. Maybe she will be alone now. Nia heard compassion beneath the fear and felt both pride and sadness. Maya had been harmed, yet she was still thinking about the child whose mother had helped create the harm. You are not responsible for saving everyone, Nia said. You are allowed to protect yourself first. A soft knock came at the open door. Olivia stood in the hallway beside Karen Ellis, the youth services investigator. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and her hands remained folded tightly in front of her uniform. Karen looked at Nia. Olivia asked whether she could speak with Maya. Only if Maya agrees. Nia turned to her daughter. Maya considered it, then nodded. Olivia entered but stayed near the doorway. I am sorry, she said. I laughed the first time they hid your backpack. I did not think it would keep getting worse. Maya looked at the cup in her hands. You knew they were doing it? Yes. Olivia's voice became smaller. I was afraid they would turn on me. Then my mother said the school could fix everything if nobody talked. Maya looked up. She did not mean fix it. She meant hide it. Olivia nodded, tears appearing again. I know. Nia watched without interrupting. An apology could not restore every moment Maya had spent alone, but truth spoken without excuses was still different from silence. Why did you tell everyone outside? Maya asked. Olivia looked toward the conference room where her mother sat under investigation. Because she said your mother would look dangerous if the police made her angry. That was when I understood she was not protecting us. She was using us. Maya remained quiet for several seconds. I am not ready to forgive you. Olivia nodded. I understand. But I am glad you told the truth. Olivia wiped her face and stepped back into the hallway. She did not ask for comfort or another chance. She simply accepted what her choices had cost. Later, Lieutenant Collins entered with Luke and Rachel. She explained that Whitmore had been placed on immediate administrative leave, that the school board had opened an independent investigation, and that the district would contact every family connected to the earlier reports. Mercer and Doyle would face separate reviews concerning the detention, their recording practices, and their reliance on an unverified accusation. Luke handed Nia her phone. Everything on it has been preserved, he said. Your daughter's messages are part of the record. Nia accepted it but did not thank him immediately. You heard the call before I arrived. Yes. You knew they were describing something I had not done. Yes. Luke held her gaze. I should have challenged it then. Why did you not? Mercer was my supervisor. I told myself I needed more information. Nia glanced at Maya. My daughter did not have time for you to become comfortable with the truth. Luke lowered his eyes. I know. Make sure you remember that the next time a person has no camera, no counselor, and no crowd watching. He nodded. I will. Nia did not offer forgiveness, but she saw that he understood the difference between being excused and being responsible. When she and Maya finally walked toward the exit, Rachel joined them long enough to say that she had accepted temporary responsibility for student safety while the district appointed an outside administrator. The school failed her, Rachel said. I filed reports, but I should have gone beyond the system when the system stopped responding. Nia looked at her. Then build one that does respond. Outside, the rain had ended. Water reflected the school lights across the pavement, and the open gate cast no shadow between mother and daughter. Maya slipped her hand into Nia's. Behind them, investigators carried sealed records from the building. Ahead of them, the parking lot stretched toward home. Nia did not look back at the officers, the principal, or the crowd. She looked only at Maya and asked, Where do you feel safe tonight? Maya tightened her fingers around her mother's hand. With you. 6 weeks later, Westbridge Academy opened its auditorium for a public meeting that no one inside the school could quietly postpone. Parents filled the seats, teachers stood along the walls, and students occupied the front rows with their families beside them. Principal Margaret Whitmore had been removed from her position after investigators confirmed that she attempted to delete Maya's recording, concealed 3 prior reports, and described Nia as dangerous before Nia ever arrived. The school board also placed 2 staff members on leave for failing to respond when Maya asked for help. Officer Daniel Mercer received a formal suspension while the department reviewed earlier stops in which his body camera had not been activated. Officer Evan Doyle was reassigned during a separate investigation into his personal recordings. Luke Harris remained on duty under supervision and gave a complete statement about everything he had heard and failed to challenge. None of the consequences erased what happened, but silence was no longer deciding the outcome. Rachel Alvarez stood at the side of the stage as the newly appointed director of student safety. Under the new policy, every report of harassment would be sent simultaneously to a counselor, a parent or guardian, and an independent district reviewer. Students could upload evidence to a protected system that no principal could alter alone. Anonymous complaints would receive a tracking number, and families would be informed within 24 hours. The rules were written because Maya had learned what happened when a child's voice depended on the comfort of adults. When Nia's name was called, she walked to the microphone with Maya beside her. She did not describe the police lights, the locked gate, or the rain. Everyone in the room had already seen the recordings. Instead, she unfolded a single sheet of paper. "This is the first statement my daughter submitted," she said. The auditorium became still. Nia read Maya's words exactly as they had been written. "I told an adult, and the adult protected the school." She lowered the page. "That sentence is why we are here. Not because the truth was difficult to find, but because too many people decided that protecting an institution mattered more than protecting a child." Maya looked across the room at students who had once avoided her eyes. Olivia sat with an aunt in the second row. Her mother was not there. When the meeting ended, Olivia approached Maya but did not ask whether they could be friends again. She only said that she had joined the student reporting committee and would testify if the board needed her. Maya thanked her. Forgiveness remained unfinished, but responsibility had begun. The following Monday, Maya returned to Westbridge by her own choice. Nia offered to transfer her, homeschool her, or find another school. Maya chose to stay because leaving should belong to her, not to the people who had tried to push her out. Rachel met them at the entrance. The iron gate stood open. No patrol cars waited by the curb. No temporary chain crossed the walkway. Students entered beneath the morning sun, carrying backpacks, instruments, and unfinished conversations. Maya paused before stepping through. Nia did not urge her forward. She simply held out her hand. Maya took it. Together they crossed the place where officers had once separated them. Near the main doors, a new camera indicator glowed steadily above a sign explaining how students could report concerns. Maya looked up at it, then toward her mother. "Do you think they will listen now?" Nia squeezed her hand. "Rules can make listening harder to avoid, but people still have to choose courage." Maya nodded and released her mother's hand only when she was ready. She walked through the open doors without lowering her eyes. Nia remained outside for a moment, watching her daughter disappear into the bright hallway. She understood that justice was not one administrator losing a title or one officer facing discipline. Justice was a child being believed before proof became public, a parent being treated with dignity before a crowd began recording, and a person with authority refusing to use fear as an excuse for prejudice. The final bell rang inside the building. Nia turned toward her car as sunlight rested across the open gate behind her. If a child told you that a respected adult, a powerful institution, or someone you trusted had failed them, would you protect the reputation you knew, or would you have the courage to believe the voice standing in front of you?